Hello, hello. Hello, good morning. There we go. Good morning. That's right, that's what I want to hear. Welcome to Visions 2022. It's been 4 years since we've been live. It's really great to be with everyone here in this room. I hope you're feeling the energy. I certainly am. I'm Ben Yerxa. I'm the Chief Executive Officer at the Foundation Fighting Blindness. It's really wonderful to see the crowd gathered here together and really what inspires to be an amazing event we have over the next couple days. But first I want to extend our sincere thanks to our generous Visions 2022 partners. These companies are really active and committed to our space, and they are major participants in our conference here. They support our mission in many important ways. They field teams at Vision Walks, they provide representatives to speak at Foundation educational meetings, support our public health education and My Retina Tracker initiatives, and much more. So today we thank them for helping really provide the resources needed to bring us together here in Orlando. So we're grateful for our platinum partner, the Janssen Pharmaceutical Companies of Johnson & Johnson. It's okay to clap. We'd also like to thank Spark Therapeutics as our gold partner and exclusive 2022 accessibility underwriter, helping to provide assistive services like Be My Eyes and Good Maps, sign language interpreters, closed captioning, and listening devices. It's awesome. Thanks also go out to our gold partner, Genentech. And we're also incredibly grateful to our silver partners, AGTC, who is also the keynote underwriter, and Iveric Bio, and finally bronze partners, Apellis, Acuity Pharmaceuticals, Regenex Bio, and Two Blind Brothers. So before we get the program started, I want to let you know that unfortunately a few speakers were not able to make it due to an illness, and you can guess what that is. But no worries, our science team has it all covered, so all the science sessions are going to be really, really great. So now to get the program started, I'd like to introduce Mr. Peter Ginsburg.
Good morning. I'm Peter Ginsburg, Chief Business Officer of the Foundation, and I'd like to just say, just like Ben, it's wonderful to have everyone here in person for Visions. Our first session is regarding how to level up your life with technology. This session will last 75 minutes, and the last 20 minutes will be available for questions. So as you listen to our speakers, please think about questions and feel free to ask them toward the end of the discussion. This session is being audio recorded, and if you're using an assisted listening device, you can do that as well. And if so, we can find out what the correct channel is for you. Also, please silence your cell phone. And we have three great speakers this morning, Ed Summers, Sam Seavey, and Jeff Wissel. And I'll introduce all three speakers and then have them come up and join me here at the dais. So Ed Summers is a blind software engineer and an accessibility specialist with 25 years experience as a software developer. Ed's personal mission is to enable people with disabilities to realize the full potential in the classroom and the 21st century knowledge economy. So Ed, I look forward to talking to you about that. Ed is a director of accessibility at SAS, which is the market leader in analytic software and services. And Ed also serves on the advisory council for the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences and the North Carolina Board of Education Advisory Council for the Governor Moorhead School for the Blind. Next speaker after Ed will be Sam Seavey, and Sam was diagnosed with Stargardt disease and was legally blind by his mid-teens. Sam's first dive into YouTube came in 2012 when he was hired to create content for a mobile technology channel. After adding videos about phone accessibility apps for people with low vision, he received such positive feedback that he was encouraged to create his own YouTube channel, which is called The Blind Life. And that YouTube channel is dedicated to sharing experiences living with vision loss. Believe it or not, The Blind Life has over 40,000 subscribers and over 600 videos. Think about the time spent putting those videos together, covering a wide variety of topics of interest for those affected by vision loss. Sam puts this knowledge to test as an assistive technology program coordinator at a nonprofit where he instructs visually impaired consumers on the use of accessibility tools to make their lives easier. Our third speaker will be Jeff Wissel, and Jeff recently joined Disability IN as the Chief Accessibility Officer. Before joining Disability IN, Jeff spent 28 years at Fidelity Investments. And I think this is really cool. In 2016, he founded the Fidelity Investments Enable Employee Resource Group that now has over 5,000 active members. Also, in 2018, Jeff co-founded and later became the director of the Fidelity Investments Officer of Customer Accessibility. And then Jeff later established and was director of the Fidelity Investments Procurement Accessibility Program. Jeff is proud to say that he's legally blind with retinitis pigmentosa, and he's been an avid user of assistive technologies, including screen readers and magnifiers for over 2 decades. Jeff also received several certifications in building his expertise in accessibility and assistive technology. So we look forward to hearing from Ed and Sam and Jeff, and first up, we'll have Ed Summers.
Good morning. It's so good to be with you. Yeah, in the past we've done the series of monologues, and which can tend to put people to sleep after you finish eating. So we want to do a little different today and just have a conversation up here about our experiences with vision loss and how technology can really make a change during that process of losing vision and living with vision loss. So first, we each wanted to just give you a little extra information about ourselves as far as our diagnosis and the rate of progression with our particular diseases. And then also, you heard a little bit about the professional accomplishments, but that's, the most important thing is the personal accomplishments, I think, for me. So we wanted to share a little bit about that as well. So I was diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa when I was 10 years old. My particular flavor progressed very slowly in the beginning, but by the time I was 30, I had pretty much lost most of my vision to the point where I was using a cane. I could not read anymore, and I was forced to pretty quickly adapt to life with very little vision, and over the next year or two, I lost pretty much the rest of it. I have a little bit of light perception at this point. I have enough vision to get me in trouble because I think I see something, but I don't. And then whack, ouch. So on the personal side, I have been happily married for 22 years to my lovely wife, Kimberly. We have 2 amazing young men who are 16 and 17, and the 3 of them, let's see, what time is it? They are they're scuba diving right now, about an hour and a half east of here. So I'm working and they're playing, but I might try to go play with them tomorrow a little bit as well. So, but we'll dig into more of that as we go, and I want to invite just the next speaker over, whoever that is, to do the same.
Awesome. Thanks, Ed. Good morning, everybody. So I'm Jeff Wissel. I'm Chief Accessibility Officer with a nonprofit organization called Disability In, and 398 companies are members of Disability In, so I get to work with them on disability inclusion and accessibility. And I like to do an audio description. I'm a white male in my mid-50s. Any hair that I do have is turning gray. And as Peter mentioned, I'm proud to say that I'm legally blind with RP. I spent a lot of mental calories over my lifetime trying to hide a non-apparent or invisible disability. And my comfort zone started getting smaller and smaller. I thought if I don't venture out, I have less of a chance of embarrassing myself or bumping into someone. And I'm a natural born extrovert. And I'll talk a little bit later about how that all changed for me, but I found my inner voice with vision loss. I still have some vision to lose, and it's just an amazing feeling when that light bulb switches and you get on the other side of just embracing disability as a strength and not a weakness. I am happily married for 25 years. In 24 years. In October, my wife and I will be celebrating our 25th. We have two amazing daughters, 20 and 16. Our 20-year-old we're an adoptive family. Our 20-year-old's from Calcutta, India, and our 16-year-old is from Ethiopia. And just thrilled beyond belief to be here. And my diagnosis, I started with vision loss. I remember one time being 7 years old, and it was dusk. And anybody with RP knows dusk is not it's not a friend of ours. And I was riding my bike, and my friend was riding, and all of a sudden I started passing him. And I'm like, why is I'm really fast. And I didn't realize there was a rusty chain crossing over the parking lot, from the upper parking lot to the lower parking lot. And I hit that chain, it hit the tire fender, handlebars, I hit this plastic baseball cap, it hit that. I went right through this rusty chain, and I didn't even see it. Not a scratch, but that's the first time I really realized, wow, there's something different here. And then when I was 21, I went to a conference, and I was diagnosed with RP, and gave up driving when I was 34, and I only have 2 minutes, so I'll stop there. Sam, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Sam Seavey, and I kind of feel like I'm at a different kind of meeting where my name is Sam and I have Stargarts. My professional life, as was mentioned, I am an assistive technology program manager at a nonprofit in Kentucky, the Bluegrass Council of the Blind. We're an affiliate of the American Council of the Blind. Where I work with clients, usually losing vision later in life. It's a lot of seniors, a lot of macular degeneration, diabetic retinopathy. Actually, Kentucky leads in the nation in diabetes, which is not a good thing, but at least I say, hey, at least we're number one in something. You got to look at the bright side. I love that. Most people know me, though, from my YouTube channel, The Blind Life, where I've been making videos for a decade now about sharing my life with vision loss. And as they said, I have almost 700 videos on that channel, and they're not all winners. You guys can skip some of those, especially the early stuff. It wasn't that good. But it's a great resource, I think. I, too, am happily married for 21 years now, and have 2 children. I was diagnosed at age 11, similar to you guys, with Stargardt's disease, and slowly losing that. Everybody always wonders what the acuity is. It's 2400 in my good eye, 2800-ish in my bad. And I'm just going to echo Jeff's description. Bald guy with hair that I do have is going gray as well. But I do have a beard, nice big beard.
So the focus of this panel is technology, but technology is really a means to an end, where the end that we seek is to adapt and thrive with vision loss. And so the way we're going to do this is we're just going to ask each other questions and fully explore the answers to those questions from different perspectives to give you all a chance to just understand technology from different perspectives. So the first one, I want to just throw it out to the group and start with Jeff and then move on to Sam. So how did you use technology to build or rebuild your confidence and find your inner voice?
Again, only a couple minutes. I could talk for 5 hours on this. With my progression of RP, I started at work. I remember changing the background, so the dark background with the white font and so forth. I did a little bit of magnification early on, and when I would print something, if I say the word toner, that shows how old I am with the old printers and stuff. I used a lot of toner because I would print everything out with the dark background and the white fonts and so forth. I went from using a pen to a Sharpie, and I remember at Fidelity, we would have these really thick books called Fun Facts, and it would have a page of all the statistics for I don't know, 4,000 or 5,000 mutual funds. And when I first started there 29 years ago, I was able to read it for the most part, but very quickly it started becoming like blank pages. And that's really when I started trying to do everything online. Unfortunately, not everything was online. And I don't know if anyone else has run into this. Sometimes you use a user interface or software and it's not fully accessible. Maybe I'm the only one with that experience, but a lot of technology, you feel like your back's to the wall. It was just a constant daily progression of using assistive technologies. I remember, and I probably shouldn't say this, I remember before cybersecurity was a thing, I bought Zoom Text, a personal license, and I installed it on my work computer. It's before, cybersecurity and stuff, so I just wanted to fit into the bell curve and not stand out. I didn't have my inner voice at that point. And I think that was the first time when I started using Zoom Text that I really realized my vision and the amount of time that I'm spending trying to focus with what vision I have left is not only frustrating, it's not effective, efficient, I wasn't competitive, and so I became an avid screen reader user. Now, fast forwarding a lot, I pride myself on being a geek with assistive technologies and my knowledge. I use the smartphone. I used an Android phone for a very long time and switched over to the iPhone, and that has really just been incredible. In my role, I use the screen reader, Zoom Text, JAWS, NVDA, Narrator, VoiceOver on the Mac. As far as some of the other technologies, to maintain independence, things like Blind Square, Soundscape with the beacon technology. I was telling Ed and Sam last night, I became a late in life runner, and my wife and I and our kids were at a state park, and I was running, and before I left, I placed a virtual beacon on our cabin because a lot of these little side streets look the same to me. And I was able to use that to navigate and to find out which side street I had to go down to get to the cabin. So all different technologies like that can be very helpful. And I say I pride myself on being a geek with my knowledge. I was listening to a podcast about 3.5 years ago, and someone was talking about ATMs. And this is embarrassing, but I didn't realize this. I always saw that little 3.5 millimeter jack on an ATM. And I always laugh too, there's Braille on the ATM machines, and it's like you go through the drive-through, it's like, hopefully somebody's not using Braille while they're driving. But when I gave up driving, I also gave up using the ATM because I couldn't see the screen anymore. And my wife would, have to use it, and she felt vulnerable sometimes at a drive-through ATM getting money out. And I lost that little bit of independence. And when I listened to that podcast, I heard that they are talking ATM since like the 90s, and I ran down to our cafeteria, plugged in my headset, and I took $20 out. And I get choked up when I tell this. I called my wife, and I'm like, I just used an ATM. And it's like, it doesn't change the world, but things like that just give us independence, and our finances are one of the most important things that we have in life. So I share that story just to talk about the importance of technology. We have to be able to depend on ourselves with our own skills and confidence and so forth, but there's some amazing technology out there that each thing just gives us that tiny bit of independence and helps us to just continue to be successful and competitive. And also the navigation with, we're going to talk about that a little bit later, traveling independently. Sam, over to you.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to echo on that. When I'm working with clients, I work with a lot of, like I said, people who are new to vision loss and they don't know how to live with low vision. And the thing I hear quite often is burden. They say, I don't want to be a burden on my loved ones. And I hate that word burden. We all feel it, obviously, but I always tell them, I say, well, turn it around. If your spouse or your family member needed help from you, would you consider them a burden? No, because we're human. We love helping people, and we're excited to do that. It gives us, reward to help people. So you should never think that. But at the same time, so I tell people never be afraid to ask for help. But at the same time, the goal is to be as independent as possible. So I totally get that feeling of just going down there to the ATM and doing it yourself. I also love the trick about putting the marker on your cabin. I think there's tons of fully sighted people that would use that trick. I'm going to steal that one too, actually. But for me, personally, I think, I grew up with assistive technology, diagnosed at age 11, so I was using CCTVs. I had an old Aladdin in my middle school. If anybody remembers the Aladdin, the old workhorse of the CCTV world. I still have one in my office, and I love it. So I'm pretty used to all that kind of stuff, using those, the four-sided tape players to take notes, all of that. But I think for me, it really wasn't until I got my first smartphone that I saw the potential of assistive technology, assistive devices, assistive apps, and how they can open up a world for me. My first one was an Android. I'm still a diehard Android guy. I know that's going to make a lot of people upset. Thank you. I love Apple. I'm using an iPhone right now. I see the benefit in both, but being a trainer, I have to know how to use both. And so, but I still love my Android. But those apps and how it opened up a world to me, and even just being able to enlarge the text, being able to enlarge the icons. That's what really got me excited about technology and made me want to share that with the world. And that feeling of, oh, did you know about this? Did you know we could do this? Oh yeah, it's amazing. And that's what led me down the road to where I am now, sitting up here talking to you guys. But I had a big moment similar to what Jeff was talking about recently. I was shopping around for a new camera. I create content, and so I've got to keep my tools up to date. And so I was looking for a new camera, and there was a new one on the market from Sony, and I just knew that it fit all the things that I needed it to do. So I bought it for that reason. And then when I got it home and I plugged it up to my big 32-inch monitor to go through the menus, because I can't see the menus on that tiny little screen, and I'm going through, and all of a sudden I see accessibility. And I'm just like, what? Wait a minute. And so I click on it, and it says screen reader. And I literally get a little emotional now. I kind of teared up at the time, and I'm like, I ran downstairs and I yelled to my wife, I'm like, you won't believe this guy's got a screen reader built in. This is incredible. Because for someone like me that uses cameras every day, literally, I've got a camera in my bag right there. I'm gonna be recording here at the conference. The frustrations of trying to see that little screen and using a magnifier and lining up my shot with a magnifier on the back of that little screen, and are the settings right? Is that an 8 or is that a 4 or something like that? To see a screen reader, it just blew me away. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that well. So I was really high, and then I set up my other camera. I'm like, I have to document this for my audience, and then I started playing around with it, and it's like, it doesn't work that well. But I've spoken with Sony, and they're like, yes, we know it doesn't work well, but we're going to continue the development, and it's going to be awesome. Don't worry. But just the momentous occasion of having a screen reader in a professional camera that has been fully inaccessible for this whole community up until now was incredible. And it just shows how accessibility is changing, how assistive technology is growing, and and accessibility and advocacy and organizations like the foundation, just the change that we're making in the world, and it's fantastic.
So Sam, are Jeff and I going to get a cameo on The Blind Life here at the conference?
Absolutely.
All right, let's go.
Everybody here might get one.
I wanted to just echo what Jeff was saying in that I tried to use my vision a lot longer than I should have. Now, to be fair, I have RP. It was obviously degenerative. I knew the end state of RP because my grandmother lost all of her vision due to it, and due to the nature of mine, it's X-linked. Only have one X chromosome, so it was happening faster for me. So it was clear, and but I hung on to that whole concept of vision is how you do things, and I hung on way too long, became way too slow. and painful. Everything I did was very slow and very painful. Now, I'm a computer scientist at my job. I'm blessed to work in a very fast-paced organizations with very smart people, and I was falling behind. And it took a couple of really intense years of reworking my thought process and the tools that I use to live my life towards a more audio-based approach, so that I could not only keep up, but get back into that kind of, become a driving force, within my company, within the technology, the industry where I work, which is where I prefer to be, is what so I love to do. And I think if I could go back and do it over again, I would have come to terms with the inevitability of my particular diagnosis and got started, kind of standing up different alternatives way earlier. And I see that as that's a very common mistake that we make, particularly people that I talk to with RP. Now, Jeff is smart. He's doing it the different way. He's doing it the right way. I did it the wrong way. So you should probably listen to Jeff. So Jeff, you want to kick us off with another question?
Sure. Sam, one of the things I wanted to talk about was you do so many podcasts or YouTube videos on assistive technologies, and you've been doing this for a long time. I'm sure you've seen a lot of things change so far. What are your visions for the future with assistive technologies and accessibility?
That's literally an impossible question to answer.
Ed, your turn.
Next. Now, just with how fast technology changes, there are I see some things coming down the pipeline and things people are working on that are very exciting. Some that, I kind of like, okay, I don't know if that's necessarily something we need, but I appreciate you trying to solve a problem. There's some great stuff in haptics. People are really trying to include haptics into a lot of different products for like obstacle detection, navigation. I mean, even talking about incorporating haptics into clothing to where with haptics is vibrations. So if you can imagine you're walking down the street and there's a tree branch, you're walking up to a tree branch that might hit you in the head or something, you will get a vibration on the upper half of your shirt that will alert you that something is about to impact you in the upper section of your body. That's really cool. Or for navigation, if you're navigating to Starbucks or something and you need to take a right at the next intersection, you'll get a little slight vibration on your upper right shoulder, letting you know you need to take a right. I love that. There's some really cool stuff coming down the pipeline with robotics. This is kind of getting into the area of like, I don't know if we necessarily need it, but there's some companies that they claim that they're going to replace the guide dog with robots in the future.
Roof?
I know. I don't want to start an angry mob here. People start coming out with the pitchforks.
And don't Chewy just give you a growl.
I know, yeah. I'm sorry, Chewy. It's not me, it's them. That's one of the ones where I'm like, I'm a little skeptical about that. I'm like, why? Why do we need to replace them? But once again, I think it's great that people are kind of thinking outside the box because that's how innovation is bred, And then if there's stories of laboratories in China working on bionic eyes and prosthetic eyeballs that will connect right to the optic nerve and bypass all the issues with the eye, which would be great for, I think, everybody up here on the stage. So, but it's hard to say. Like I said, it's really hard to say. There's a lot of stuff that is not so exciting, so to say.
Ed, how about you?
Yeah, I think, replacing Chewbacca is my seeing eye dog. Replacing him with a robot is absolutely unfathomable to me, but the technology that drives robotics is called artificial intelligence. It's kind of a buzzword, and I know it's in the news a lot. But at a very simple level, there's kind of two kinds of artificial intelligence, kind of the general form, meaning like creating a human or creating a dog, it's very general. And there's also more specific forms of artificial intelligence, which are solutions to very specific problems. And I think that's where over just in the last 3 years, we've seen just an explosion of artificial intelligence, specific solutions for problems that are driven by artificial intelligence. Some examples are, let's see, there's a device that many of us have in our kitchen where we talk to it and we ask it to play music or, you know, what time it is and that kind of stuff. I'm not going to say it because if people are listening at home, I might invoke their little device, which would be very rude. But, you know, all that's driven by artificial intelligence that uses models to recognize our speech, turn that into text, and then respond to it. So that's, you know, one example. And another great example is a wonderful app called Microsoft Seeing AI. It's a play on the seeing eye, a seeing eye dog, but it's Seeing AI, it's an artificial intelligence. It's a free app, and if you don't have that one, I would strongly recommend you grab it. It has basically you can choose the model you want to run. So for example, if you just want to read a little bit of short text on a piece of paper or a business card or something like that, you choose short text and you scan it with the phone and the camera in your phone, and it does a really good job of reading text like that. It has different models. It has a model that can tell you color, and I pointed it at my head and it said gray, and I was like, well, clearly it's only so good. You know, it doesn't work that well. But you know, it's getting better all the time. They'll work that bug out. So yeah, I'm keen on, and this is going to come to fruition. I think it's really coming to fruition now. These very specific AI models that can solve different problems for a whole wide range of applications, including people like us with vision loss. Jeff, what do you think?
I think for me, one of the biggest opportunities where we'll see a dramatic change is indoor navigation. I don't know if anyone else noticed, this is a big hotel. I get about a 50-50 chance of getting it right, which hallway to turn down and so forth. And I'll ask everybody to do a little exercise. Let's give a round of applause for Good Maps and Be My Eyes. I think my buddy Mike May from Good Maps, using LiDAR technology and so forth, to map out this facility and to be able to just hold your smartphone up and Bluetooth earpiece and have the Good Maps Explorer app working and running, and being able to just navigate down the hallway and to hear what rooms are coming up and how far away they are and things like that. It's not perfect technology, but it's out there and it's building. The tactile things, simple things. In my role, I get to work with corporations, global corporations, and hear what they're up to. And some of the companies are talking about products. And how many times have you gone to your pantry or the bathroom closet, and there's 3 or 4 boxes that are kind of all the same size. And if you can't see that box, what's in it? And to have a tactile symbol on there, not braille, but just a tactile symbol to know, oh, it's something from, it's facial cleanser or whatever. Companies are doing things like that with even packaging, I think is really cool. And just amazing things. I think it's so cool having teenage daughters to be able to use, Find My and know where they are. And not that I'm a helicopter parent or anything like that, but so I think a lot of that, but to me, one of the most exciting things is indoor navigation, because it opens up the door for employment as well in ways that kind of aren't there right now. Ed, can I switch questions?
Yes, go.
I'll start with you, Ed. Ed's one of my mentors. Ed's forgotten more about accessibility than I think I'll ever learn. Ed and Chewy, it's so funny. I talk to him about this all the time. We'll be together at a conference. He won't know where he's going, but he's going 55 miles an hour. And I'm like, how do you do that?
Chewy knows where he's going.
Yeah. But you're a role model for many of us. You travel independently, and you make it seem effortless. What are some of your tricks? What are some of your go-to technologies that help you do that?
Yeah. Well, first off, Jeff and I have a mutual admiration society, as you can tell, which is great. I think the trick to doing all of this, including travel, which I'll talk about, is regardless of the circumstances that life throws at us, if we can do it with grace, and courage and kindness. That's really hard. It doesn't matter what circumstance it is, it's hard to do. And something challenging like vision loss is an extra special challenge. So I think the thing that I think hurt me the most when I was losing my vision was the ability not to get up and go and do the things that I wanted to do and I needed to do. And I remember one of those moments for me, one of those watershed moments when I was about 30, and my life had gotten more and more constricted to work and home, especially during the wintertime, because it got dark early and I live in North Carolina, and my world would just constrict. And at some point, one Saturday, I woke up and I was like, I am sick of this. I'm going to live my life. And I got my cane out of the closet. I remember Jeff was telling me last night that his cane lived in the closet for a long time, and eventually it moved to his briefcase, and then eventually to his hand. But I did the abrupt, went and got it out of the closet, and I walked about 2 miles with very little O&M training to my barbershop, because it was something I've been meaning to do and I couldn't do it, and I just kind of struggled through it, and haven't stopped since. When I was younger, I was thank you. And I think if you can make those mistakes without getting hurt, that's the key, is to be able to experiment and make mistakes without getting hurt, and learn constantly and adopt technologies. Now, I use the term technologies very liberally, kind of like an economist, in the sense that fire is a technology, money is a technology, language is a technology, right? That's kind of that liberal definition. My CNI dog, Chewbacca, this is number 2. He is truly a CNI dog. There are many guide dog schools. There's only one CNI, and that's where I go to get my dogs. He is absolutely, by both of my dogs, he's number 2, they have been wonderful. And though I can move through public spaces almost like I could when I was fully sighted with a CNI dog. Of course, I'm competent with a cane, not as much now. I mean, I'm a little bit rusty because I primarily use a CNI dog. And it just gives me that personal freedom of floating, of just effortless movement for long periods of time without fatigue. So I think Chewy is probably my magic, what would you call it? My secret weapon when it comes to moving. And the other thing is, when did we do this? This was last night. Jeff and I were, we were walking around, we were going out to find dinner here at the hotel, and I noticed that there was, I always try to find the stairs, the emergency stairs, when I'm in a tower. I'm in the tower over here in the hotel. And it turns out that the emergency stairs is right beside my room. And I was like, hey, let's take this down and let's see where it goes. And so another secret weapon that I have is when I'm in a new space, I just meander. I just go places and make mistakes. And this morning we tried to go back behind the grill at the restaurant down here, because we were just taking off, and they came yelling at me, whoa, 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 you can't do it. Oops, I'm sorry. And we turned around and we went back, and it was fine. So we just make lots of mistakes. That's the trick. What about you guys?
Sam?
Well, I mean, kind of very similar. I grew up, I think, number one, I had very supportive parents. Am I on? Sorry. Can you hear me?
No.
Uh-oh.
We lost you.
We've lost it. I didn't touch it. I'll use yours. So, sorry.
That one works.
Hello, is this on? So first of all, I'd say for me, what was most important growing up is I had very supportive parents that were not like, I have good friends who didn't have such supportive parents, and they said, actually with RP, one friend in particular, and they said, pretend like there's nothing wrong, hide it, don't let anybody know. And in my opinion, that was a horrible thing to do. My family was like, well, what can we do? Let's reach out to organizations. What can we do? What can we, get our kids to help them succeed? And also, no, get out there, do stuff, go ride your bike. Back in the 80s, during the day you were outside playing all day and you didn't come back until nighttime. So I've kind of kept that mentality of that's just the way it is. And why should I let this little thing like poor eyesight stop me from doing what I want to do. And that's the motto of my channel. You know, I start all of my videos by saying, you know, my name is Sam, this is The Blind Life, where I help you learn how to live your best blind life. Because that's what it's about. It's about getting out there and living your best life. And if anybody needs inspiration on that kind of stuff, I've got tons of videos about that. I have a whole, we were just talking about this last night, I have a whole series called Blind Challenge, where I try to do things that maybe aren't normal things for blind persons to do, blind people to do. And in fact, next week, I'm actually going to Atlanta to go fly an airplane. Just because. Because why not? You know, it's something I've always wanted to try, and somebody's crazy enough to let me do it, so let's go do it. And I will be recording it, don't worry. But it's also about creating systems. You know, you don't just, no pun intended, go out blindly and try and do all these kind of things. You have to have, you know, create your systems that work well for you. And, you know, I have systems for traveling independently, what I do when I get to the airport, how I find my gate. When I get to my gate, if I want to go explore the airport, okay, how am I going to find my way back to my gate? You know, what do I do when I get on the airplane? I've got a whole system that I do, and that's, you know, allows me to be successful in those situations. Incidentally, I've got videos on all this stuff too, if you guys ever are curious. But it's mainly, it's the attitude, which I think, you know, Ed touched on. It's the determination not to let anything stop you from doing what you want to do and finding a way to do it. I tell people all the time that I work with, you're going to be able to do all the things you want to do within reason. Okay, you might not be a long-haul trucker. You might not be doing surgery, but not without help anyway. But you'll be able to do all the things you want to do. You just have to learn this new way to do it. But you can do it, and you can enjoy these things and be successful at them.
So, Jeff, I wanted to prompt you. You traveled here independently from Cincinnati, and I know you travel independently a lot for work. Can you just kind of walk us through the step-by-step of how you got here from Cincinnati?
Sure. I want to start really quick, too. For me, my personal journey, the biggest barrier to independence with vision loss and accessibility and so forth was this guy named Jeff. I was my own worst enemy. I didn't have anybody in my life who was blind, low vision. And it wasn't until I found a mentor at work, Alicia, who lost her vision due to diabetic retinopathy. And we were introduced, we connected, and that's how we started this employee resource group and so forth. But Alicia helped me find my inner voice. And I used to think I had this magic power where I could read people's minds. And I want to do something here really quick. This ties into what we're talking about. So this sound, when I used that for the first time, it was the most vulnerable I ever felt in my life. It was the sound of vulnerability to me. And having switched over, and I'm relatively new to using a cane in the past 2.5 years, there's a phrase I heard called unconscious incompetence bias. And I was so guilty of it. If I would see someone using a cane or other technology, I didn't have the expertise or the knowledge. And I thought, wow, that person, you know, they're limited. There's certain things they can't do and so forth. And the first time I used that cane, I could read people's minds, and that's what they were thinking about me. And I've learned through finding my inner voice and embracing, it's cool to have a disability. It creates this whole diversity of thought. We're natural innovators. We, on a 24-hour basis, we're finding alternative ways to do traditional things. That's what employers want. Employers want people who are thought creators, thought leaders, innovators, and so forth. All of that being said, I still can read people's minds, and now when I hear that sound, it's forever embedded in my mind. That's a sound of independence, confidence, and that's what is probably one of the coolest things that happened to me with independent travel. I no longer have to be an actor of someone who doesn't have much sight, who's trying to act like they have a lot of sight. This tells people that I am visually impaired. It took me a long time. I was stubborn with RP, and I didn't want to connect. Now that I have, there's nothing that can stop me. It can stop any of us.
So, Jeff, that's unconscious incompetence
Bias.
bias. Tell us more about that and your tricks of the trade for knocking that out.
I stole that term from, I was at a sales conference, and the gentleman that actually invited a lot of folks from the AFB, American Foundation of the Blind, I think he's on their board, he said that term. And I mean, we're all familiar with unconscious biases. We're all guilty of it at some levels. And the unconscious incompetence bias, it's a lot of folks that we encounter, even ourselves, may not realize we don't have proximity to disability. A lot of times folks will not have someone, either they're directly impacted or someone that is indirectly impacted through their kids, spouse, partners, family members. It's awareness, and it's just information. That's really what it is. When we don't have information of how folks live their lives and how they have all these cool things that are happening and what they're able to do, it's just an unconscious incompetence bias. And when we find our inner voice and realize that a disability is a strength and not a weakness, that's how we crush unconscious incompetence bias. And we prove to folks, I mean, you're all inspirations to me. We're here independently, we're here with others, but we're doing it. We're out there, and that's what's so important about all of this. And just, I don't know, I'm rambling at this point, but back to you, Ed.
Yeah, let's see. Sam, you have a question?
Sure. Is this working now? Okay. Weird. Well, so actually, Jeff, let's switch gears, talk about employment, workplace, things like that, which ties into what you were just talking about. So if we've all experienced this, I'm sure, you're searching for a job, going through that process, maybe you've got some interviews. I'm curious, I've talked about this a lot on my channel and had debates, and I'm curious to get your opinion on when is the best time you think to divulge or disclose a vision impairment or other disability, I'll say.
Mm-hmm. This is such an important question, and I don't think it gets more real than this. I've talked to so many folks who have applied for jobs and self-disclosed from the very beginning, and you hear stories, sometimes they'll go through 100 applications and they don't get callbacks. And others are very vocal about it and so forth. It is a personal decision. I will say for myself, my answer 7 years ago would be different than it is today. Being Chief Accessibility Officer at Disability Inn and having the opportunity to work with corporate America and global aspects of corporate America, companies are focusing in on accessibility and hiring individuals with disabilities more than I've ever experienced in my entire life. The past 3 years, the maturity of accessibility programs in corporate America, their diversity and inclusion, their accommodations, it's just off the charts. Is it easy? No. There's still barriers. So many companies have barriers, and we'll have legacy software, user interfaces that if you're a phone representative or working with customers, you have to bring up an interface to get all their account information. If that was created 5 or 10 years ago, accessibility wasn't baked into that. So there are positions that are going to be difficult to use with screen readers and magnifiers. Every single company, every single organization has those issues. But the focus on what companies are doing, in my experience, they're really looking for talent and diversity of thought. Having said all of that, I truly believe sharing up front a disability is the way to go, because it gives the employer, the accommodations team, the talent and acquisition, it gives them a heads up. It gives them the opportunity to prove, hey, this is a company that you want to work for because we care about this. I see it happen all day long. I still see and hear stories where folks don't get callbacks. I think a big part of it is Honesty is always the best policy. Not that we're dishonest if we don't say. And I've also heard, well, I'll tell them after 90 days, after the probationary period. Again, it's such a personal decision. I just want to share, there's a lot of positives in corporate America working to hire individuals with disabilities. And when we can be our authentic selves, we're able to be better than if we're hiding something. And it's cool to have a disability, is how I would answer that.
Yeah. Just real quick before Ed goes, I would just echo that. That's my thought as well. And I also let people know that, during that process, especially the interview process, there are, you don't have to walk in and like, once again, hi, my name's Sam, I have Stargarts, I'll be applying for this job. But there are several opportunities that just organically come up during that process to bring it up. They always ask those questions, what kind of adversity have you had to overcome in your life? Boom, right there. Perfect time to talk about your vision loss and how you made it through school and persevered and all this stuff. So I'm with you. I think the sooner the better, because you don't want there to be any hint of dishonesty. Not that you're lying, but you walk up the first day and Ed comes in with his guide dog and they're like, whoa, wait a minute, he's like, yeah, you're gonna have to buy a bunch of software for me and get me a large print monitor and all this stuff. They might not look too favorably about that. You want to give them time to get all that stuff ready. So, Ed, what do you think?
Ed, before you go, really quick, the thing I've learned too, having been with the company for 28 years, never sending a resume out in the first 27 years. I loved the company I worked for. The one thing when you do interview, it is a business process. I develop thick skin very quickly. There's nothing worse than, well, there's a lot of things worse, but it hurts when you get that first rejection letter. And then a lot of times they're just automated rejection letters that nobody probably even looked at your resume. But it's a business process, and it's important to remember not to take it personally. They're interviewing us, we're interviewing them. That was just a key learning that I just had. Sorry, Ed.
Yeah. I think, my progression with RP, I kind of thought when I was losing my vision, I was very much, quote unquote, in the closet with vision loss. I refer to it as that. I was trying to hide it. And as vision progressed, it became more and more difficult to hide it. And pretty soon it was obvious to everybody except me that I was losing vision, And like Jeff frequently says, if there's a gap, if there's missing information, people tend to fill it with the worst possible scenario. So I have long ago, 20 years ago, kind of came out of the closet and have become very forthright with my vision. Now, the impact that has had on my daily inner peace has been extraordinary because I don't hide anything now. I mean, I don't put everything out there, but when it comes to vision loss, it is what it is, folks. And you can take it or leave it, And the other thing is, I'm pretty competent at what I do and confident in my ability. And if a company doesn't want to hire me because I'm blind, I definitely don't want to work for that company. So we should get to that. Let's get there real fast, all right? Like where we stand, so I can move on and you can move on. Yeah. I think the challenge is that as we're losing vision, for those of us who are losing vision, there is that kind of critical process there where it's touch and go, like, are you sighted? Are you low vision? Are you blind? Or and sometimes, depending on the weather conditions or how much sleep you've had or, the amount of light in the room, you can go from fully sighted to not very much at all in an instant, right? And it's out of your control. So I think those are kind of, there's a lot of challenges in that no man's land, kind of between where I was 25 years ago and where I am today. So I do have a lot of empathy for those of you who are, traveling that road. There's no one right answer for all of us. Who has a question next? Sam, did you?
I can jump in.
Yeah.
So we've learned a lot about tricks of the trade, the Microsoft app, the marker for the virtual marker on the cabin, the fact that a camera would have an accessibility feature when we don't expect that. I think our audience would love to hear if there are any other tricks of the trades from any of you, Ed, Jeff, Sam, that you could speak to? Because I think these, at least for me, have been enlightening, and I'm sure you have a few others that may be enlightening to our audience.
You want to go first?
Tricks of the trade. I have lots of tricks of the trade. my tricks of the trade are little things that I've discovered over the years. I have low vision, so everything in my world needs to be high contrast, large print, magnification. So little things like if I drop something on the floor, I will grab a flashlight to find it, but I won't just point the flashlight down. I'll get down low and I'll skim the light across the floor, so it's a long beam of light on the floor, and then I'll sweep that back and forth, because as soon as it hits that object, maybe it's my medication, a pill, it will cast a nice long shadow. There will be a bright highlight on one side and a dark shadow on the other of the pill, and so it just stands out. It's super high contrast. Much easier way to find something than just shining straight down. Probably, one of the funniest things, I make videos about these things. I've got videos on all this stuff, and sometimes an idea comes to me, maybe talking with someone. I get a lot of my ideas from social media and stuff, but and I'll think, well, could be a good video, but maybe not. I don't know. Probably nobody cares about that, but I'll make the video anyway. And then, just because I need content, I'm always looking for content. And then it will, for some reason, that video will just resonate with the community way more than I expected. And one of the videos that kind of fit that bill was, how do blind people brush their teeth? I know. That's what I thought too. I was having this conversation with my boss, and she's like, well, I do it this way. And I'm like, yeah, that's how I do it too. And she's like, I wonder if everybody does it that way. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. I should make a video. And, but I've gotten that question so many times. They're like, how do you put the toothpaste? I get it. It falls off the brush, and it's all over the sink and everything. And I'm like, no, you just squirt it right in your mouth.
Yeah.
You just squirt it right in your mouth, and then put the brush in and start brushing your teeth. And they're like, oh, why did I not think of that? I'm like, I don't know, but I've gotten emails where people have said, you literally saved my marriage with that trick. And it's just one of those things that's like, I thought everybody just kind of organically figured it out, but I guess not. So that's my big takeaway for this conference, is just squirt it right in your mouth.
Yeah.
There you go.
But I got to say, the follow-up to that is, don't share the toothpaste tube.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the downside.
Personal tubes.
I think for me, along those same lines, actually, it was my buddy Larry from American Printing House for the Blind taught me, before you bend down to pick something up, always put your hand out first.
Yeah.
He lost 2 front teeth, and so he shared it with me, and I thought, wow, because it's so easy to not even think about that stuff. Tricks of the trade. I heard this one time. It was a podcast I was listening to, and it was a neurologist talking. The human brain doesn't like gaps of information. When there's gaps of information, our brains fill in those gaps with fear and anxiety. And a question for the audience, and by a sound of yes, has anyone had a sleepless night because you're traveling to a conference and you're not sure what's all going to happen there, or anything where you didn't have information about a situation and it caused you to lose sleep?
Yes.
With a degenerative eye disease, there's a lot of unknowns, a lot of uncertainties. Are we going to be able to work? How are we going to drive to work if we have to give up? Lots of unknowns, right? And my life lesson, trick of the trade, is to realize that when we find information and we proactively seek information from the disability community, we listen to podcasts, YouTube videos, read books, find a mentor who has the same eye disease, who is successful, all these different ways that we can find information. That information squeezes out that fear and anxiety that was filling in those gaps. good information allows us to make better decisions. It allows us to gain that competence, confidence, competitive spirit, and it crushes the unconscious incompetence bias. So follow my lead and embrace it and find information, because it's the key to everything.
Hear, hear.
Yeah, I'll quickly give a couple of specific tricks of the trade and then a more general one. Let's see, I think a wonderful trick of the trade is learning to read with your ear using text-to-speech, not human speech, but computer-generated text-to-speech. There's great voices these days. I know a lot of competent professional people with blindness who are reading at 600 words a minute or more. If you're interested, at FFB Visions 2020, which was virtual 2 years ago because of COVID, I did a video on this for that conference on this topic of auditory speed reading. And I've done some blogging. If you Google auditory speed reading in my name, you'll find some blogs that I did. That's a big one. Widely applicable. Another one, a little one that I use rarely, because when I travel, is there's a nice little iPhone app called iExit, lowercase I, uppercase E-X-I-T, like the exit on the freeway, that lists upcoming places where you can get milkshakes and hamburgers and stuff like that, or gas. And as a co-pilot, frequently, my wife drives and I'm a co-pilot, it's really nice to be able to contribute in that way, to be able to look ahead 2 or 3 or 4 exits and find, the Chick-fil-A or whatever it may be, where we want to go. That's a nice little trick. And then I'll give you the general one. Sam mentioned this earlier. Build systems. And I think if you're constantly looking to build the systems that you use to solve problems, and you build a nice toolbox full of these little tricks for yourself, and sometimes we invent them, lots of times we ask around, search around, and find them from smart people like Jeff and Sam. What happens was what I've found, and Jeff was saying this last night too, is it just gets to the point where you don't even think about vision loss anymore. It never comes up in my mind, ever, because I've got systems to do just about everything. And my wife is like, "You're not blind. I don't think you're blind. You just do stuff." And it's true. Every once in a while, I'm like, that's a problem. I haven't solved that one before. How am I going to do that one? And over a couple of days or a couple of minutes, couple of days, I somehow or another find a solution to it and move on. And then that trick's now in my toolbox. So it's just continually expand that toolbox of tricks.
That's great. Well, I hope that all of you have found this discussion as interesting and insightful and informative as I have. We now have time for questions, and so I'll ask that before you ask your question, please wait until the microphone runner reaches you, because we are recording the session, so we want all in the virtual audience as well to hear your questions before we answer them. And then since we only have 20 minutes for Q&A, please do limit your questions to one question so everyone has an opportunity to ask their question. So if you have a question, please raise your hand, and one of our Foundation mic runners will come take your question. I think Dan has a question up front.
Good morning. I'm Dan Day. I'm the chapter president here in Orlando, so welcome to Orlando, and thanks very much for the presentation. Very, very nice. I wanted to highlight something I think you alluded to early on in your talk, and that was, don't wait until you really, really need the technology before you learn how to use it. Of course, there's always something new coming along, and you can't learn it before it comes along. But I hear too often, I think, too many people say, I really, really need to use this now, and I should have learned it a long time ago, because now the learning curve becomes so much steeper. And it's something that's probably intuitive and easy to say, but not so easy to do, because even if you're a techno nerd, which I fall in that category, having worked in high tech for 40 years, it's like, oh man, one more app I got to learn. I can't even use the ones I got now. But still, I think learning it early makes it much, much easier. So I wonder if you would just comment on that.
Yeah, I'll take the first stab at that. So I consider this period for me between 2002 and 2004 to be the crucible, when I kind of, came out, quote unquote, came out with my vision loss and learned how to function at a high level. And during that period, I allocated a budget for both travel and tools, and to just give myself some freedom. And back then we were newly married, and we didn't have a lot of money, frankly. But I still allocated a nice, healthy chunk of money for over a period of a year to go to a conference, go to a couple of conferences related to assistive technology and blindness. I went to FFB conferences, became very involved with FFB, and also bought magnifiers and different things like that, and just started experimenting with them. And some of them worked, some of them didn't. I resold some of them or gave them away. It was just this constant, very, active period of trial and error. And I think, Dan, it's a good reminder that never stops. And it's true, if you think about, just take sight loss out of the picture here. Let's just talk about our careers or just contributing to society, right? If you don't have a mobile phone today, it's really hard to live in society because everything we need, right? You have to just kind of constantly scan the horizon for new technologies that need to be learned and adopted so that you can contribute both personally and professionally. Others?
I think my answer is, because I was kind of late to the game with it as far as just my embracing vision loss and everything. So I would say, thinking about this, put yourself in the third person, and if it was your son or daughter and they're going through this, and just to think, what guidance would you give them? Because being up on technology would make things a little bit easier. In applying that to ourselves, I wasn't ready for it for some of this stuff, and if I was to guide someone, I'd say, well, of course, you're losing your vision. Why wouldn't you want to have all the tools of the trade? Obviously, but to internalize that, I think, is the key. So we just have to get over ourselves and realize, I can get around without a cane, or I can do stuff without the technology. But we all know deep down we're more effective and efficient and competitive if we really have a solid knowledge of it. That's how I answer it from my perspective, because that's what I learned. I wish I would have got over myself and would have embraced it, because I knew I could have benefited from it, but I just wasn't there yet.
Yeah, same thing. I mean, I tell people all the time, I hear it quite often. Should I start learning Braille? The doctors say I'm going to lose my sight completely, or should I start learning the cane? I don't fully need it now. And I say, yeah, absolutely. No time like the present. Go ahead and start learning. For some of those things, it might be easier to learn while you still have some vision, rather than waiting till it's all gone. Some things maybe not, maybe Braille, arguably, but the other thing is you might find that, especially with the cane, like Jeff said, you're going to find benefit in using it now. You don't realize how beneficial it could be for you right now. But a lot of people don't realize, the cane's main function as an identifier and how helpful that is in so many situations. They think, well, I don't need it to find, chairs and things in my way yet. I'm not to that point yet. I'm like, yeah, but can you read the menu at a fast food place? Well, no. Okay, then you need the cane. Because when the person looks at you strangely because you're asking what the specials are and it's right there behind them on the wall, plain as day, the cane answers all those questions. So I say, yeah, absolutely. Go ahead and start learning it right away.
John Cornell, retinitis pigmentosa, white male, hair.
Oh, come on. He's showing off.
Light perception, oh yeah. Light perception only. I guess I have a comment and then a question. So I've been to a lot of Visions conferences. I manage the legacy program at the foundation, by the way, shameless plug. I've been to a lot of Visions conferences, and all of us here know that what we're all about at the foundation is science and finding treatments and cures, but we also provide the support that you gentlemen have offered this morning. And I think this is the first time to launch a conference where we've done this. And it gives me a real feeling of comfort to hear these things, to be able to relate to that. And I assume that other people in the room feel the same way. So thank you for sharing your experiences.
Thank you, guys.
One of the most exciting things that I heard you say was about the future of potential robotic guide dogs. A lot of my friends have guide dogs, and they ask me why I don't, and I readily admit I don't want to pick up the poop. So I assume that these robotic guide dogs won't have that issue. So I'm going to pay attention to that.
Yes.
Now to my question. Whichever one of you has the worst vision and traveled alone, please give us that step by step as to how you did it.
Yeah, I probably the worst vision.
Yeah.
And then, and I travel alone a lot, sometimes internationally. But so I'm also just as a side, and I'm sorry, I can't look at you or look towards you because I don't know where you are because of speakers. But thank you. Great.
He's over there.
Who's heard that one before?
Yeah.
So I do have the time, the opportunity to influence the research in the field of robotics and artificial intelligence from time to time professionally. And this is a new one. I'm going to encourage them to develop a robot that will pick up dog poop for you. and that way, you can get an organic dog because, they're wonderful. But yeah, okay, so let me take a spin at this, and others can as well. I travel independently constantly, a lot more before COVID, and just, we're all starting to get out more and more now with COVID. Uber and Lyft, those kinds of ride sharing, they're absolutely amazing. They are very accessible now. In the beginning, they weren't. They are friendly to guide dogs now. In the beginning, they weren't. They're amazing, and if you're not using Uber or Lyft, it's once you kind of get into that groove, they're amazingly economical, frankly. I would strongly encourage that. So that solves your transportation pretty much to any airport and back. As well as if it's a long distance, then there's car services. Like sometimes when I go speak at a university that's an hour and a half away from the Chicago airport, then I'll just hire a car service to drop me out there, and it's a lot cheaper. But for around cities and airports and things like that, Ubers and Lyft and those kinds of things are just absolutely required. I'm at the point where with my guide dog, I pretty much navigate airports independently. Rarely do I need to get help. I don't know how to do it. I just done it so much that I learned to kind of perceive where things are and stop and ask questions. And I also kind of study airports and try to remember what their layouts are. So my home airport RDU is an easy one, and then I try to connect through Atlanta because I know that one like the back of my hand as well, and that one's easy. And then I just kind of build out my network, and every once in a while I fly somewhere new and I'm kind of lost, or I have to go through immigration, customs, which is a little bit of a challenge. And I will ask for a sky captain to help me then, just to kind of walk me through that process. I think the other big thing is knowing where you are in space. Once you land, where do you want to go? There's a lot of pre-planning that I do using things like Blind Square and other iOS apps like that. There's a couple, Nearby Explorer is another one out there that's really cool. Soundscapes is another one. Good Maps now, there's several of these out there. They're all worth kind of tapping into to see which one you like and which one has the features you want. There's plenty of videos out there, some from me, Sam, others on using these technologies. And then I also use Google Maps, just straight up Google Maps on a regular basis as a go-to, like, oh, I'm at the hotel, what are nearby restaurants? And the reason I use Google Maps is because their data is just so rich and it's accessible. It doesn't get me there, but if I'm going to take an Uber anyway, it doesn't really matter. If I know it's 5 miles away, then I know that's, probably about a $15 Uber. Those are the main points. Jeff? Sir?
Yeah, having vision to lose yet, I definitely will use things like the Be My Eyes or IRA. Ira is kind of nice because they're able to bring up a map and so forth, and my GPS location pings on their computer screen and so forth. It's a subscription service.
You want to spell that?
AIRA, and it's a subscription. You pay for minutes and so forth. But Starbucks, for instance, if you're in a Starbucks, they pay for the minutes. Other companies do that too. A lot of the airports will pay for it. So I just use my Bluetooth earpiece that you saw me use before, and I hold the camera up as I'm strolling with my cane and my suitcase, and they'll just give me those directions that, I mean, I know how to read. I just can't see those big screens or the big monitors to know where I am. And it just alleviates a lot of that anxiety because they're able to share some information with me. The other thing, I don't want to talk about the cane too much. We already have, but being at an airport, I've learned from experience, if you don't want to look suspicious in an airport. I look suspicious because it would take me time to focus, and I might go the wrong way through the security line. And all of a sudden you see the guards like, what's this guy doing? But with the cane, it's like, you know. So those would just be my things. But just, so I know where I am today as I continue to lose vision. Ed's my role model, and many of you are my role models because you can do it. It's just taking that first step. And 97% of the time in life when we take that opportunity to seek out challenges and opportunities, it turns out well. And it's so cool expanding our comfort zones instead of letting blindness tighten our comfort zones.
Yeah, I would say real quickly, I won't take too much time, but it's terrifying to take that first step that Jeff's talking about, which is very understandable for a lot of people. But as he also said, getting the information helps to alleviate some of those fears. And so by doing the research of, some of the things that we're talking about here today, helps a lot with that. I should also mention that I have a video called Independent Travel for the Visually Impaired. You can look it up on YouTube. And I go through my entire process of going through the airport. I wear a GoPro, so I've documented the whole thing. And I have videos about how to find your luggage, how to mark your luggage to make it easier to find. I've got a video where I walk through the entire Lyft app and I go through a ride wearing the GoPro just to walk you through that whole process. So lots of information there.
I think we have time for one more question. I know there's someone in the back that's been patient. Oh, there's someone up front? Okay.
Good morning. Dwayne Creviston, Chicago, Illinois. My question's for Jeff. You mentioned a beacon, being able to place a beacon on something. Mm-hmm. How exactly did you do that? Is that an application or something you buy for that?
It's a great question. So it's an app free from Microsoft called Soundscape. And you can basically just, when you download the app, and I want to say it's on both Android and iOS, on the app, one of the things is virtual beacon. And so wherever you are, you can place the virtual beacon and save it. And then what's kind of cool is when you're away from that location, you just point your phone around and it has like a sonar, like a submarine kind of ship sound. And so it has this constant, just repetitive beep. But when you're pointing it in the right direction where the virtual beacon is, then that repetitive beep becomes like, so you know you're on and stuff. So it's a really, really cool app, and you can use it in a lot of different ways for things like that. Mm-hmm.
That's great. Well, Ed, Jeff, Sam, really appreciate your time this morning. This has been absolutely enlightening, and let's give them a hand, please. And thank you all for attending the session. There's now a refreshment break back in the foyer, and the next session block is the science sessions, which begin at 10:30. Check your program for session choices and locations. Good rest of the day.